And good afternoon. It is noon, and that means it's time for our regular Lunch and Learn. Now, today we're going to talk about rogue cells, or as the article states, cells that are in sedition. Now, sedition is a really, really strong word, and that means they're being antagonistic, they're not going on with the program, they're in revolt. And so this is kind of an interesting concept. And so this is all about a different way of approaching cancer, a different way of understanding cancer. And I found it very, very insightful. Every family has been touched with cancer. You may be dealing with cancer yourself. You have family members that have been dealing with it, or you have close friends that have been dealing with it. So this is important for everyone. Cancer is a very old disease. The numbers have increased significantly in the last 50 years. It used to be, and it's been a while since I looked at these statistics, but it used to be that cancer was found like 1 in every 1,000 people. Now it's 1 in every 3 people. So the incidences of cancer have risen significantly. And we in holistic world think that we know why. It is the pollution of our environment. It's the pollution of our food supply. It is the number of vaccines that we get, all that kind of stuff. And we think that that has contributed to the onslaught of cancer. Medical science, President Nixon declared the war on cancer in the 1970s. And so we have had 50 years of cancer research, and we are no closer. We're no closer to finding a cure. So there are alternative therapies. And if you have listened to me or you know me personally, you know that my family has been touched by cancer, and we have gone the alternative route with very great success. And so if you need referrals on that, we can definitely help you. However, this is a different approach. And we're going to be talking about things that you can do to prevent cancer or reverse cancer in your own family. So this is going to be some really good information. Is it going to be easy to hear? No. Is it going to be easy to do? Well, choose your hard. Living healthy is hard. Living with cancer and dealing with that is also hard. So you're going to just have to choose your hard. Since the 1970s, we have spent billions of dollars on cancer research. And in 2024, next year, the projection is from the National Cancer Institute that we will be spending $7.8 billion in cancer research. So that is a lot of money. And we've been doing this for 50 years, and we're no better off than we were. Throughout the 70s and 80s, the annual cancer death rate grew. Annual cancer fatalities did see some decline in the 1990s, but the article says that that is due mainly to the messaging about how bad smoking was, and the public health messages about be smart, don't smoke, and that kind of thing. So they are attributing the fall of cancer fatalities since post 1980 in the 1990s and beyond to the public messaging about cancer being caused by cigarette smoking. All right. There's a book called The Cancer Code, A Revolutionary Understanding of a Medical Mystery. And this is written by Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, medical doctor. And so he is looking at cancer from a different way. And he is postulating that there's more that we can do for ourselves and for our loved ones to be able to fight cancer. Now, Dr. Fung is based in Toronto. He is a nephrologist. Now, a nephrologist is a kidney specialist. Now, he's best known for his work dealing with diabetes patients, and he deals with the patients through diet. Now, in holistic world, we know that if your diet is garbage, all right, then you're going to have problems. And so most people here in the United States eat the standard American diet, SAD. And it is sad, and it makes your body sad, and it's not healthy, and it's not good for you. So we need to figure out a way to educate people on how to eat and eat properly. So Dr. Fung is from Canada, and he deals with his diabetes patients through diet. His interest in cancer began as he was examining its connection with obesity. Long cohort studies find that individuals with severe obesity present an elevated risk of some type of cancers, some being elevated as much as 7 times. So let me break that down for you. If you are heavily overweight, then you can be more prone to cancer, 7 times more prone to some cancers just because of your weight. So that's pretty powerful. Everybody can do something about your weight. Is it a happy thing? Not necessarily. Is it an easy thing? Not necessarily. But again, you need to choose your hard. Is it hard to lose weight and eat healthy? It's more complicated than just eating whatever you want to eat all the time, all right? However, if you know that being overweight is going to contribute to your chances of contracting cancer, then that to me is an incentive not to be overweight. Now, what is overweight? All of the studies I looked at showed that you are obese if your body mass index is above 30. So you can Google a calendar that calculates your body mass index. It is your height squared times your weight or something like that. I Google it, okay? I'm not the math whiz and that kind of thing, and thankfully we have all these kind of tools. And so you look and see what your body mass index is, and then you can have a pretty good idea of where you are on the weight challenge. Now, they used to say that if you were 30 pounds over your ideal weight, you were obese. And I looked at some statistics, and it said if you had 20% more weight than optimal, that you are in the obese category. 20% is not that much, and so you need to kind of look at that. In 2016, after reviewing more than 1,000 studies, the International Agency on the Research on Cancer concluded that 13 different cancers are clearly obesity related. Obesity has been linked to cancer in a very strong relationship. According to the National Cancer Institute, individuals who have a higher body mass index at the time their cancers are diagnosed or who have survived cancer have a higher rate of developing a second unrelated cancer. So here again, weight is a big issue. And so if you are diagnosed with cancer and you are obese, then you have a higher probability of secondary unrelated cancers. Most people think that cancers are caused from environmental influences, asbestos, radiation, dioxin, that kind of thing. The World Health Organization maintains an ever-growing list of carcinogens and their cancer-causing potential. Carcinogens of all varieties are something to be mindful of. So what we eat, what we drink, what we clean our homes with, what we paint our homes with, all of those things, we need to make sure that they are as clean as can possibly be. However, the majority of cancers can be traced back to our own daily habits. When they rank the population attribution risk, smoking is the number one cause of cancer, 30 to 35%. A lot of other things we think about, like chemicals and so on, are very, very small in terms of how much it contributes to the population's risk of cancer. It's like 1 or 2%. So the carcinogens that we eat, the carcinogens we put on our skin, the carcinogens, if you're in a real unhealthy environment, right, then it's going to be a little bit higher elevation. But for the general population, all the toxicity in our environment only contributes, it says 1 to 2% of the cancer increase. Smoking, 30 to 35%. Obesity is also 30 to 35%, and that is 100% caused by diet. According to the World Health Organization, 1/3 of deaths from cancer are due to obesity, high BMI, and tobacco use, as well as alcohol consumption, low fruit, low vegetable intake, and a lack of physical activity. So a lot of times as people get older, they slow down, they become sedentary, they don't do any exercise, and this contributes to your overall risk of disease, not just cancer, all right? All of these activities, a poor diet, smoking, all that kind of thing, contribute to cancer, but we don't really know what triggers it. All right. We don't know why it happens to so many people. So the doctor goes on to talk about mutations in the DNA. Now we know that cancer is a unregulated cell. Most cells, they've got a programmed cell death that's worked into the DNA. And that means the cell is born, it does what it needs to do, it dies, it gets gobbled up by the immune system, the lymphatic system, and then we get new ones and all that kind of stuff. Cancer is a cell that will not die. And so it's about mutation, and the mutations can emerge anywhere in the body and can allow cancer to develop and grow beyond what the body would normally allow. With benign cancers, you have a mass. It can be a big mass, but it's not going to kill you. Now, they'd normally just take those out and you've got no problems. But a malignant cancer, a cancer that is not great, invades and destroys healthy tissue. And in order to save the patient from a malignant mass of mutated cells, doctors rely heavily on chemo, radiation, and surgery, right? All of these treatments are toxic to the cancer, but they're also toxic to your healthy cells. And so this is why in holistic world, we try to avoid that. Sometimes you can't, and I understand that, but we really try to avoid that because we know that chemotherapy and radiation are going to kill healthy cells as well as the unhealthy cells. Now, they kill the unhealthy cells faster, but they do have a lot of side effects. So various forms of cancer-killing approach have been around for a century, and it remains the predominant method of treatment. However, we're still losing more people than we should, and it's not a very effective treatment, all right? So this doctor is proposing that if we look at the DNA of the cancer cell, that we may have a much better way to deal with this instead of just the, we call it the slash and burn theory. And I know that's a little bit disrespectful, and I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but when you're killing the good cells and you are, putting toxic substances into the body, then you're not really doing something that you want to be doing for long term. Radiation and chemotherapy stay in the body for the rest of your life, and so it's going to have long-term side effects. We've seen many patients that went in and had chemotherapy, they had radiation, and then as the years prolong, they have different kind of issues. I remember a guy that came to see us, he had had radiation in his neck, and several years later he went deaf. We have a family member that had radiation on her jaw, and what it did was it caused so much scarring on her esophagus that she was not able to swallow, and so she had to rely on a feeding tube, and she eventually died of malnutrition. So there are long-term side effects for the chemo and the radiation. So there are some new treatments that are just around the corner, and they come with the discovery of the DNA as the researchers began to look at the genetics of cancer to understand the disease. They found that the genes that control growth, which are called oncogenes, they discovered mutation of these genes that resulted in excessive growth. They also discovered genes that slowed down growth, called tumor suppressor genes, as well as mutations that reduce tumor suppression genes, okay? These observations gave rise to what is known as the somatic mutation theory. Somatic means body, okay, physical body. Somatic mutation theory. And for years, doctors and drug companies believed that the theory would lead to efficient, high-tech approach to cancer medicine. If cancer growth is merely a result of mutations, then we can design medications to counteract that mutation and cancer would be solved. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't just one or two mutations that they found. They found a bazillion opportunities for mutation. And so there were a couple of drugs from this strategy that were very, very successful. However, it did not last. By the 1990s, they started working with a specific drug called imatinib, which was designed to fix genetic mutation that caused cancer, and it was a specific leukemia cancer, all right? They were all excited about that. They thought that they could cure this. This is a blood cancer, but the problem was that the mutations behind most cancers were far more complex than the leukemia that Imminotab targeted. The Cancer Genome Atlas Project, for example, which sequenced genes for thousands of cancer specimens to see what kind of mutations were found to occur, uncovered a vast universe of possibilities that one or two wonder drugs would never be able to reach. A project to catalog all known mutations found in various types of cancer in 2018 revealed about 6 million mutations. That's a lot of mutations. All right. That's a whole lot of mutations, and no one drug is going to be able to deal with all of that. And that is why the medical system has such a hard time treating cancer, is because there's so many different variations, so many different mutations, and no one's really studied this. Only in 2018, this is 2023, that's not very many years to get a handle on that. All right. The dizzying details of the mutations crashed the high hopes of targeted gene therapy. According to Fung, somatic mutation theory advanced our understanding of cancer, but not in the ways that the scientists had anticipating. Instead of allowing us to decode and tweak a few problematic genes that would develop into cancer, the theory collapsed under all of the variables of how many different mutations that they have. He says the number of genetically targeted drugs that make a difference in cancer, you could probably count on one hand, because you can target one mutation, but you cannot target 70 or 100 mutations in the same body. So it was a dark period in oncology where the progress, which was so optimistic in the beginning, sort of fell down at the wayside. Following the dash dreams of the somatic gene theory, which had been the prevailing ideology in cancer for more than 50 years, a new understanding has arisen. This started to happen, according to Dr. Fung, in 2010. The emerging ideology builds on the genetic knowledge gained from the past, but also adds a more plausible understanding of why these mutations develop. While the somatic gene theory viewed cancer as a handful of random genetic accidents that somehow managed to outsmart our immune system defenses, the new approach sees cancer as a means of cellular survival. So I found that very interesting, because the body is a survival mechanism. Everything that our body wants to survive. And so if we're looking at cancer as the body's survival mechanism, that just turns everything on its ear as far as the medical system is concerned. He says it's not random. That's the thing that has always been very strange about the somatic mutation theory. It was just bad luck. This new theory opens up a huge array of possibilities of what you can do with cancer once you move past the genetic paradigm, and explains a lot about cancer. So the developing picture of cancer comes from observations that show that cells, which originate from their own multicellular organism, begin to develop traits of a single cell organism. They replicate endlessly and compete with neighboring cells for resources. So let me break that down for you. All right, we are a multi-organism being, okay? We've got an immune system, we've got a respiratory system, we've got an endocrine system, we've got a cardiovascular system, and the list goes on and on and on. All of those different systems work together, work in cooperation, because we are a single unit, right? And everything works in cooperation so that we are healthy and we can do what we need to do and all that kind of stuff. Cancer cells decide, I'm not going to work in cooperation with you. That's where the sedition comes. I'm not playing the game. I'm not going to do it the way I'm supposed to. I'm going to do my own thing. And is it because of toxicity in the environment? Maybe. Is it because of toxicity in smoking? Most probably. Is it because of the weight situation? 30 to 35% is. Now, in holistic world, let me back up. In the general population, right, people are going to say, oh, well, I have a problem with my genetics. I'm just naturally predisposed to be heavy, all that kind of stuff. They think that people look at them and think they don't eat well because they're heavy. In holistic world, we know that the body's inability to lose weight is because of the toxic load that it's carrying. All right. So what we do is we look at how to release the toxic load. When you release the toxic load, the weight just goes away. Now, remember, going back, we're going to go back a few paragraphs. The body is a survival organism. So when things are not working the way they need to be working, we've got environmental toxicity, we've got smoking, we've got all the things that we've got, whatever that means to you, all right? We're not able to process it in our body. We're not moving our bowels like we need to. We're not cleansing through the urine like we're supposed to. Our lymphatic system isn't working like it's supposed to. We're not breathing like we're supposed to. Those are the 4 methods of getting toxins out of the body. When that doesn't happen, the body will push the toxins into the adipose cells, our fat cells, and our fat cells get bigger and bigger. We get heavier and heavier because the body pushes the toxins into the adipose tissue, right? And that keeps it away from the visceral organs, which is where we live and move, right? So we know in holistic world that when there is an inability to lose the weight, it is because the body is carrying a toxic load. So if you change the internal environment, then you're going to shift those toxins out of the body. The weight is going to go down, and then your risk of cancer also is going to go down. All right. It is the exposure of any chronic sublethal cellular damage that is responsible for the breakdown of the multicellular cooperation, be it tobacco smoke, asbestos, radiation, synthetic hormones, vaccines, whatever. Okay, we don't care what it is. We know what it does. We need to get rid of it. Fung compares the change of healthy cancer cells to the shift that happens in once great human civilizations that crumble. Imagine the normal cells being people that follow the rules, they do what they're supposed to, and they live in cooperation with their neighbors. They live and die in predictable cycles, and they benefit the world as a whole. And the post-apocalyptic, I can't say that word, world of cancer, however, it becomes a world of every cell for itself. Once a civilization breaks down to prolonged exposure to one cancer-causing agent or a multitude of carcinogens, sickened cells strike out on their own. I'm not going to play the game with you. I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I have got to survive, and I am mutating in order to survive. They focus on their own selfish individual interests. Now, this is really important because they're starting to understand what actually is going on in the body. Now, I was in a seminar just this week about using enzyme therapy to mitigate cancer. Now, this particular case study that we talked about or we learned about was a gentleman who had prostate cancer. Now, his PSA, I think it was like 360 something, which is a lot. You're in trouble if your PSA is over 4. He was at 360 something, okay, which is really bad. He was put on this regimen of enzymes. Now, enzymes are what your body makes anyways. You have your pancreas. Your pancreas secretes enzymes. You can go to your health food store. You can buy digestive enzymes, or you can buy proteolytic enzymes. Enzymes change chemicals in your body to do different things. And so we all need enzymes in order to function. Well, in this study, they put this gentleman, on the first month, they put him on 15 grams of enzymes a day. That's a lot. After a month, they put him on 30 grams of enzymes a day. within 6 months, his PSA had gone from 360 something down to 0.6. So they're doing some more clinical trials with larger number of people with prostate cancer. They're getting ready to do clinical trials with women that have breast cancer. And we know in holistic world that if we can clean up the internal environment, and that's what these enzymes do. They go in and they destroy the mutated genes. They go in and they fix what is called the extracellular matrix. Now, you're going to have to Google all those terms. I don't have time to tell you all about that today, but we know that your cell is going to be healthy if the extracellular matrix is healthy as well. What contributes to the health of your extracellular matrix? I'm so glad you asked. Diet. Diet is what contributes to the health of your extracellular matrix. You need to be able to be eating good fruits, good vegetables, good protein. You need to be able to digest them and absorb them so that you've got the antioxidants that you need in order to combat the free radical oxidative stress in your body. So with these enzymes, this doctor proved that you could go in, change the, think of it this way. You've got an egg. Crack an egg in your frying pan. You've got a frying pan. Put your oil or your butter or whatever you do. You crack your egg in there. The yolk is going to be the nucleus of your cell. The white of the egg is going to be your intracellular matrix. The oil around your egg is going to be the extracellular matrix. So the extracellular matrix is the fluid that your cells move and live and move around in your body. That is the fluid that does that. That fluid is controlled by what you think, what you eat, what you drink, your habits, your thoughts. All those things contribute to that extracellular matrix. You can change that extracellular matrix by changing your diet. You can change that extracellular matrix by adding enzymes at the appropriate time and in the appropriate quantities, because your whole body, that multicellular organism, is a survival organism. And so if you outwit the cancer cells, then you can win that. Now, is it easy? No. We deal with a lot of holistic doctors, medical doctors that treat cancer, not here in the United States, because our medical system won't let them do that. But we know from talking to them personally, I know them personally, we know that if you're dealing with cancer holistically, it can take 3 years for you to be able to eradicate cancer out of your body. Now, that's fearful for some people because everybody is saying, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it now. Well, when you do that with chemo and radiation, you can do that, but you're also long-term damaging the host. We don't want to do that. That's a lot of information. That's a whole lot of information. Your takeaway today is cancer cells are mutations. If you change their environment, if you change the extracellular matrix, you can actually change the cells. Whenever we were looking at this seminar, they showed us slides of breast cancer. They showed us a breast cancer normal cell. They showed how it had mutated into a cancerous cell. And then they showed how it had reverted back to a normal cell. So all of this was done through enzyme therapy. Now, is it easy? Yeah, it's pretty easy. Is it, doable? It's expensive because we're doing 30 grams per day of enzymes. So that can be somewhat comprehensive on that. However, you don't have to go that way. You can change your diet today. You can lose the weight today. And when you do that, that is going to make your body not so susceptible to the mutations that cause cancer. So there's a lot of things that you can do. We can help you. If weight is an issue, we can always get that weight off. I don't care how you got it. I don't care what you've tried before, but we've got several different tools that we can use to get you where you need to be. So we want to stop the mutation. We want to stop the internal environment that causes the mutation. If you still smoke, that's not smart. That is not smart. You can change that today. If your work involves being in asbestos or radiation or all those kind of things that are, detrimental to your environment, that's something that you can change today. Is it hard? Yes, it's hard, but you're going to have to choose your heart. So it's a different way of looking at cancer. It's a different way of dealing with cancer. I'm excited that the medical system is moving toward this way, because I think that the people that we know and love, when this paradigm shifts, we're going to have much better outcomes. And that is why we do what we do. It is the weekend. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for doing all the things that you do, the liking, the commenting, the sharing. We do appreciate that. It's the weekend. Take care of yourself. Make sure that you do self-care, that you relax, you rejuvenate. Be mindful of what you're eating. Be mindful of your BMI. Those are things that you have control over, all right? Don't be a victim. You don't have to be. Take care. I'll see you next week.